ददातु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Hari Om all and good evening. We invoke blessings of Ma Durga on this auspicious day, which is the Mahasaptami, and we wish you all a very happy Durga Puja. The topic for the day is 3C intellect. Just the inspiration for the topic came from Swamiji's topic on 3C success. During the 2001 famous Australian tour of India, the cricket series, we had organized a talk for Swamiji to the Indian cricket team, and that is when he coined this term 3C success. So we had sort of taken the inspiration from the term, and we have applied to this, calling this as a 3C intellect. We will see as we go along what it is. We begin with a short story of Swami Ramatirtha. He gives the story of two painters. A king for his court wanted to appoint a painter. Let's say he is the royal painter. And he can have his assistants and others, but the main painter is one person who he needs to select. And the announcement was made. Many people applied at various levels. Various painters got eliminated, and in the final round there were two painters. Let us call them A and B. So the competition between them was fixed in such a way that there was a very big hall given to them, and in the halls both the opposite walls were given to them for them to paint whatever they want to paint. There was a screen drawn here, there was a screen drawn here, so that they don't see each other for 30 days. And obviously there were no other means of communication also between them, and they were not very close friends or known before also, and there were people to look into these conditions. But they were given full freedom, full materials, whatever they want, and according to their imagination they can paint whatever they want to paint. So painter A, what he did was, in a 10 by 10 set of rectangles in around 100 pictures, he painted the entire Ramayana in sequence, right from the beginning of King Dasharatha's rule in Ayodhya till the end of the war and Rama coming back to Ayodhya and getting coronated. All the incidents were beautifully covered and very, very nicely he had painted. So picturesque it was. And he finished it within 30 days. The other painter, we will not say what he did. On the appointed day, king comes along with the other judges, and he asks the screen to be opened on the side of painter A. And when they open and see the Ramayana painting sequence, everybody is wonderstruck. Never in their lives have they seen a painting like that, such precision, such clarity, and also covering all the details right from the beginning till the end, not only with reference to the total pictures, but in each picture also every detail was looked into. So everybody said nobody can paint better than this, we have to just directly declare him the winner and appoint him. King was objective, he said, let us see the other painter also. So they ordered the other screen to be opened, and when they opened that, they were even more wonderstruck. what was interesting is, if this painter had painted his paintings which is normally two-dimensional, the other painter had a depth in his painting. It was three-dimensional. And what was surprising is, as I said, they were not allowed to consult and they were not also friends before. Probably they met each other during this course of the competition. But exactly in the same sequence, all the paintings of Ramayana were painted by this painter also. No change even to one bit at all. And they were extremely surprised at that first, and then they understood what had happened. So how was it possible? What was the cause of the depth in the painting which gave the 3D dimension? It was instantly then clear to them. What this painter had done was, for all the 30 days, he had merely polished the wall with all the fine equipments that he had. He polished the wall to such an extent that it was transparent like a mirror. So what was in the other wall got reflected in this wall, and obviously they would see their reflection also. But so that was his idea. This story is not about painters, and why Swami Ramatirath gives this story is very interesting. We'll come back to the story at the end of the session. Now, see, this is based on the famous topic of Swamiji, where he talks about intellect versus intelligence. If you have followed Swamiji's talk, particularly in the last decade or 15 years, some of the key topics like attachment and intellect, intelligence, he keeps on emphasizing it again and again. And this is one of the most important topics which is not discussed. So this is based on Swamiji's talk on intellect and intelligence only. So when it comes to intellect, we have to understand there are three types of living beings. Basic lesson about plant, animal and human. And there are three equipments that we always talk about, which is the body, mind and intellect. As far as plant is concerned, it has a strong body. A body is well developed, that's all it is. The plant doesn't have mind. Mind is the seat of emotions. So there is no question of any emotions as far as plant is concerned. Okay, even if we argue that whether they experiment and find out whether plant is reacting to music, whether it has any sense of emotion, it is so negligible, it is as good as zero. If you want to be adamant, you can put it as a rudimentary mind, which is tending towards zero. So for all practical purposes, plant doesn't have a mind. And there is no question of intellect. Intellect is the faculty to think, the faculty to judge, reason and analyze. So that is out of question for plant. When emotions itself is not there, where is the question of any discriminate thought? So intellect is not available for plants. When it comes to animals, animal has a well developed body definitely. Its structure of the body is definitely more complicated than the plant. So it is quite well developed. And animal does have mind. Animal possesses all the emotions. Animal is designed to act upon emotions. And all the emotions that we possess, we see it in animals also in a different degree, that's all. But whether it is love, whether it is anger, whether it is sadness, gratitude, positive, negative, all emotions that we see. In fact, I don't know if we mentioned in our class before that laughter or expression of joy in the form of laughter alone is one emotion that is exclusive for a human being. So in fact, there is a lesson from nature that if you want to live up to the dignity and prestige of human being, then you have to continue laughing. Laughter is sort of a product of your philosophy. It is that which distinguishes a human from other creatures as far as emotions is concerned. when it comes to thinking or intellect, animal doesn't have intellect. We can again argue whether animal does its thinking, whether it has a rudimentary intellect. If at all, you can say it is as good as zero. Again, with reference to its basic instincts, animal you can say can think. For example, if you show a biscuit packet to the dog, it will come running to you wagging its tail. But you hide a stick and hit the dog when it comes. So that means it runs away. Again, when you show the biscuit, it will not immediately come. It pauses, it thinks. In that sense, you can say it is thinking. So with reference to its basic instinct of hunger and protection of life and various other things, there could be a thought process involved, and if you want to call that intellect, then it is a rudimentary intellect, which is as good as zero. So for all practical purposes, animal doesn't have intellect. For a human being has a well-developed body. Science, with all its advancement, has still not fathomed the complexity of the body, particularly brain, etc. So body is well developed. Mind is very well developed. We have a variety of emotions, and in each emotion we have a depth that we can go to. Even in love, unconditional love, going up to the level of a highest form of bhakti is possible for a human being. And what is unique about human being is the strength that he possesses in the form of thinking, which is intellect. Intellect is the faculty to discriminate, to analyze, to think. A human being can make decisions. A human being has the faculty of choice. Not at major junctions of life, at every point of time he has this capacity to choose. So that is a faculty of the intellect. Not only that, at some stage a human being can ask questions pertaining to the very existence, pertaining to the purpose of life. Is there somebody called God? What is the purpose of my life? Is there any aim or goal in life for me? Then, let us say, living like an animal in a more sophisticated way, am I supposed to do anything else? Even if we are not able to get the right answer, we can at least think and ask these questions. Is a prerogative of a human being. So that way we can say, even if you argue that animal has a basic intellect which is only the gross intellect, but there is other aspect of intellect which is subtle intellect, which is to deal with the transcendental reality and ask all the philosophical question in life. That is there only for a human being. So this is the basic composition of all the living creatures, and only a human being possesses intellect. All of us are born with certain strength of the intellect, but it remains at that stage for most of us because we don't care to develop it further. That is the sort of tragedy. See, all of us are born with some strength of muscles in the body. But unless otherwise you care to develop it further, you are not going to become stronger. Exactly like that, whatever has been provided to us as the strength in the very beginning, most of us lead the life like that without caring to develop that intellect. And therefore what happens because of this? What happens is that without the intellect, we tend to follow a herd instinct. In animals also, they tend to form herds. And what are those animals? Animals like zebra, animals like impala, goat, cow. These are the animals that form herds. A tiger walks alone, a lion walks alone. They are confident of their strength. Whenever anything is required, they just come, pick up and go. But all other creatures like even wild buffalo and all, which is quite strong. As far as strength is there, it is there. But they all move in a herd and they feel secured in a herd, this is actually showing betraying their weakness. So if you are confident of your strength, you may not be in the herd. The point is, not being in the herd doesn't mean that you do something which others are not doing. That's not the point. You will be able to think and do whatever has to be done at any point of time. Then you may continue to do what others are doing also, but the way and purpose with which you will do will be different. So when a human being does not have this development of intellect as his strength, he tends to feel secure being in a herd. Therefore, he continues to do whatever his predecessors did, whatever the society has set standards. We discussed this a little bit in the last session on corruption also, that a passive way of living. So whether we go to school, whether we go to university, whether we then earn money, whether we get married, we get children, each and everything is based on the standard set by others. So there is no thinking involved. Any of these things that we normally do in our course of life is not wrong. Going to school or going to college or institution of marriage or children or career, nothing of it is per se wrong. But the point is, we don't apply ourselves as to ask this question as to why am I doing this? Okay, at least school, we can say that we are put into the school when we are very young and we cannot think. But later from college, why at all should I go to college? Okay, let us say I am a rich person and my father has bequeathed a lot of property for me. Why should I go to job? Why should I run a business? Why should I be a professional and earn money? I am not saying again you should not earn, you can earn. But this question do we ask at all? This is the thing that we need to remember. We don't seem to ask this question at all. Marriage, again, why do we get married? Why should I get married? Why should I beget children? Why should I do any act for that matter in my course of life? All the things are probably set in motion and we mechanically follow. This is what will happen if we don't develop our intellect. You may say, what of it? Nothing specific could happen, but it is like you are susceptible to accident also at any point of time. It is like a person who is merely acting on his whims and fancies. He may a person like who is drunk and he drives the car and he comes home safe. That does not mean that he has followed the rules of driving properly. He is susceptible to accident. At any point of time he may encounter accident. It's like that it is. So that is why in some of the captions of Swamiji's lectures we use this caption, you live by choice, not by chance. It is not by chance that we live and everything happens somehow. We do not know. We can attribute it to God's grace or past karma. But you need to constantly apply your intellect and do it. So this is where the importance of intellect comes into play. Now, most of the world understands intelligence to be intellect. We do not go by the dictionary meaning and sometimes how it is used in common English language, but you try to understand the spirit of the terms used here with reference to these two terms, particularly intellect and intelligence. What is intelligence? Intelligence is being well informed in one or more subjects. That is called as intelligence. A person may be intelligent in mathematics, a person may be intelligent in carpentry, or being an electrician, or in agriculture, or in politics. These are specific subjects. And what do you do with this intelligence? You can earn a living with this intelligence. And to that extent, we need the intelligence also. And then you can pass on the intelligence to others also. So therefore, Intelligence is that which you acquire from an external source. Intelligence is gained from schools and universities. Intelligence is gained from books. Intelligence is gained from various other external sources. And what you can do with intelligence is that you can use the intelligence, apply yourself in the world and make a living out of it, which is in one way required also. And then what you can do, you can pass on that knowledge to others so that they also can acquire intelligence. We see this trait in animals also, because animals are also blessed with specific intelligence. A weaver bird has the intelligence of building a nest, which is a very intricate piece of engineering. I mean, we cannot do it, but it has got that particular intelligence. It is so nicely interwoven that you cannot even break it easily. Small bird, it is building like that. It is like warm in winter and cool in summer. How does it know it? And it will catch a firefly and keep it inside so that there is light also in that nest, which is very narrow. That is that specific intelligence that that bird has got. A tiger has a specific intelligence, let's say to catch a prey without disturbing the prey. It suddenly pounces on the prey, though that is its natural tendency, and the young one, the young cub of a tigress, it watches, and that also acquires that intelligence also. So animals do have specific intelligence. So like that, a human can also acquire intelligence through books, through universities, through colleges, anywhere. All these are the sources by which we can gain. Distinct and different from intelligence is how we use the term intellect here. Intellect cannot be acquired from an external source. Intellect has to be developed by oneself. It is an awareness from within that you need to look into and develop. So intellect is developed from within oneself, vis-a-vis intelligence which is gained from an external source. This is the basic difference. Any great master, any avatara also, when he comes and gives you knowledge, it is just an external knowledge. But unless otherwise you work upon it from inside, you are not going to gain this faculty called intellect. There are various facets of intellect, and that requires a deeper understanding. But the basic difference is this, that intelligence is gained from an external source and intellect is developed from within. With all the intelligence, there is no guarantee that you will be able to handle your life. You can be in great position. You can climb the corporate ladder and achieve various things in life. All that is possible. But when it comes to making decisions, having a control over one's personality, all that is not guaranteed at all. In other words, intelligence in a person need not necessarily mean that he has developed a strong intellect also. And the vice versa rules also apply, that a person who has developed this thinking capacity need not be very well informed in various subjects or even his own subject, or he may not care to also, but he has cared to develop that specific aspect. As far as we are concerned, because there is much emphasis of development of intelligence in this world through school and other education, parallelly and simultaneously we have to spend time and energy in development of intellect also. So both should go hand in hand. So we said first that we'll see some examples. Swamiji used to go to lecture in America. Even now he goes. I mean, this year he couldn't go. Every year, and this has been happening for many years. So once in I think Boston, when he had a series of public lectures, a particular lady used to attend very regularly, and one day she took an appointment to meet Swamiji in the morning, because evening is the lectures, and if you want to talk something private, obviously it cannot be in the public platform. So she took an appointment, and Swamiji was also free, so they called that lady for the appointment wherever Swamiji was staying with that host. And the host was excited because the lady was not coming alone, she was bringing her husband. Her husband never used to attend lectures, but her husband was coming for the appointment. And that husband, who is also of an Indian origin, is one of the most reputed scientists in America. He was such a brilliant scientist that he is among the panel of scientists who advises probably the government as to, what metal will go into making of cryogenic engines in the rockets, or that type of a rocket scientist he was. A highly qualified and a brilliant scientist. So Swamiji said this lady came along with her husband. After the formal introduction and other thing, he said, hello, how do you do? Meet my husband, how are you? All those things. The next sentence that she said was, Swamiji, put some sense into him. That is the sentence she said. That is such a great scientist, such a brilliant scientist, and this lady says, Swamiji, put some sense into him. And the best part is that man is also nodding, yes sir, I need it, that sort of a thing. So then during the course of conversation, they understood or they explained what the issue was. See, this person, he was a brilliant scientist, but he had absolutely no control over his alcohol habit. So he used to be drunk. Not only that, he had no control over his temper. He was a very short-tempered person. He used to shout and lose his temper at very small incidents also. And not only that, he used to go into depression thinking of certain small tragedies in life. There was probably a death in their family. A young child was born and immediately died. Even the parents have gotten over that sadness, but this man is still carrying, and he used to go into depression thinking of it, which happened many years back also. Yet, a brilliant scientist. Now, you will appreciate the difference. He, as far as intelligence is concerned, as far as his area is concerned, he is like a great person. Lot of intelligence in that. And that is why he has come up to that position. Say, even for most of you who are working in corporate and who are in various positions in your company, you have cared to develop your intelligence to that extent that you are sitting in that position vis-a-vis, let us say, the peon in your company who has not cared to develop his intelligence. Therefore, what happens? He has to get instructions from you and work. He cannot apply, particularly in certain decision-making areas, of particular knowledge. So therefore, he has to merely do the mechanical job which has been said by others. So obviously, the scientist is a man of great intelligence, but as far as this aspect of personality is concerned, his intellect is not developed at all. So he has no control over his life. Not only that, this type of uncontrollable mind, when it goes all out by itself into infatuation in certain areas, all the talent, all the intelligence that you have will not blossom, will not be of any use to you or for others. That is the saddest part. If you get a chance, we have to take the English poems compiled by Swamiji, of course authored by great English poets and commented by Swamiji from point of view of Vedanta. So there he has chosen 3 long poems in the end. One is Ladomia, second is Andrea del Sarto, and third is Sohrab and Rustam. The second one that I am talking about is about a painter called Andrea del Sarto. Andrea del Sarto was also a very great painter, and he belonged to the same time as Michelangelo and Raphael and other great Leonardo da Vinci and others in the medieval Europe. What is interesting is, all the great painters, like what I mentioned, Leonardo da Vinci or Picasso or others, they are praising the talent of Andrea del Sarto to skies, and they are saying that he is the best. Yet, All the world knows about all the painters that I talked about, but hardly anybody knows about Andrea del Sarto. See, it really matters who says you are good. Bhagavad Gita, one verse says, Tamahuhu Panditam Buddha. Him the wise call a sage. It is not a person on the street who is calling you are a very great person. You are a very, what to say, I look up to you for inspiration. If a very well refined and a high level intellect person praises you, then that has more value, isn't it? When the great English poet Keats died, we may also like Keats and we may know him of a great poet because we have heard about him like that. If we come to know about death of Keats, what we will maximum do? We will 3 minutes silence we will stand. That's about all. We do not know what is the loss of Keats to the literary world as a young poet that he died. Shelley, another great poet, writes a poem, Adonis, praising Keats. So he knows what is the loss of Keats because he is also another poet. So if a poet will understand another poet, like that is the caliber. If suppose he says, who is a great batsman? Oh, Tendulkar is the best. Richards is the best. Lara is the best. Suppose if Lara, Richards and Tendulkar point out to another person as the great batsman, then that has a value. In fact, it happened. When Sir Donald Bradman was watching the match Australia versus West Indies, when Sobers was playing Lillee and Bradman declared that there has been no better cricketer than Sobers, that has a value because Bradman is like the Pitamaha. He is the grandsire of cricket, and when Bradman says Sobers is great means that has a value. So like that, these painters say Andrea del Sarto is a great painter. But unfortunately, he was not famous as others, and obviously he did not have so much of collections of works to exhibit also. What is the reason? He was so infatuated with his wife Lucretia. Even the King of France, who gave him some money as a patron and encouraged him, all that money was wasted on his wife. And his wife did not allow him in the sense he was so sort of like a slave to her that he did not do justice to his talent. At least all his life would be justified. Okay, at the cost of his painting, at the cost of his talent, at the cost of his money and everything, he at least won the love of his wife. If that was the case, at least it is understandable. That is not also the case. This is what infatuation will do. He was like treated like in a very condescending way by his lover, his wife, and a very, very sad life that he lived. This is what lack of intellect will do. It is not, see, what you have to understand is, we are not talking about a personal life of a great painter. It is a loss for the whole world, as it were. Loss for the art. So, if you have not cared to develop your intellect, this will happen, surely. We know that even if you have specific intelligence, and you are generally okay as a person, but if the emotions take over your personality at some point of time, beyond the capacity of your intellect, your own intelligence will not be available for you at that point of time. This has to be understood. Again, an incident in Chennai, there was a doctor who was a very great surgeon, who was an expert in surgery and probably number one doctor there at that point of time, and others were far behind him in terms of competency. One day he had to operate on his own wife, but he could not. The operation was performed by his assistant, and the lady died on the operation table. Maybe her case was severe also, we do not know, but that's not the point here. This doctor till his death regretted that he should have performed the operation on that day. He was a very brilliant doctor before the operation. He was a very brilliant doctor after the operation also, because he continued in his profession. But the question arises as to what happened to him on that particular day. On that particular day, all his intelligence, all his brilliance which was there within him could not express itself. So it is not available to him at that point of time because of lack of strength of intellect. His emotions took over the personality. Once he became emotional, he was not objective enough to see doctor-patient relationship. He was caught up in husband and wife relationship. So once the emotions take over like that, then it is very, very difficult for you to apply yourself and do, however brilliant you are. See, consider this simple experiment. If a big plank of wood is kept from one end of the room to the other end of the room, and everybody is asked to walk on it, which is a wide and strong plank, nobody will have any problem. Let's say it's 6 feet, 7 feet wide and it's very strong. Everybody will easily walk. But if the same plank is kept at the top of Twin Towers at 100 meters high or some tall building, and the architects certify, engineers certify that the plank is kept very strong, and the doctors certify that you don't have any pressure or anything, or you will not become dizzy, and your health condition is okay in general. Still, how many will venture to walk there is the question. Why will not we want to walk at that point of time? Because there is an inherent fear that comes into our system. What if I fall? That emotion of fear, when it takes over our personality, then the intellect ceases to think. Once the intellect ceases to think, the body ceases to act. This is the connection. Again, I repeat, when the mind becomes extremely emotional, when emotions take over your personality, then intellect is not available for thinking. It is clouded. It cannot think. Once the intellect is clouded and it cannot think, the body cannot act and you collapse. This picture is actually exaggerated in the life of Arjuna at the 0 hour of the battle in the Kurukshetra war. Arjuna was generally a stable person, generally a good person also, and he was a person who was waiting for this war, and it is a righteous war as far as he was concerned. And the army had assembled, and in a commanding tone only he begins and he says, take my chariot in between two armies so that I can see who I am fighting. Krishna obliges. Once he goes and sees, particularly when the chariot is in front of Bhishma and Drona, then he sees all others around, he becomes extremely emotional. Emotions overtake his personality. So instead of seeing the warriors on his side and the enemy side, on the opposite side, he views everybody from a personal angle as his uncle, as his grandfather, as his guru, as his friend, as his brother, as his brother-in-law. This is what his vision is now. It is not a marriage party there. It is a war. It is not a festival where all the family members have gathered together. And he was very clear of it before, but at that point of time what happened? He became extremely emotional, and then what happened? The great Arjuna fell. He became incapacitated to act. He was absolutely not clear at all what is to be done, and all the symptoms of psychoneurosis was visible in his personality. This is what will happen even if you are generally a stable person, but emotions at any point of time take over your personality. Therefore, there is no compromise on strengthening the intellect at any point of time. So when it comes to intellect, we deliberately titled this talk as 3C intellect. The first aspect of intellect is choice. We talked about how the choice is only available for a human being, and you are not given choices at major junctions of life, like whether to take a commerce group or science group as a choice, whether to take up a job or a profession, that's a choice like that, or to live in Bombay or Delhi or Calcutta is a choice. Like these are major choices, whether to marry or not, or who to marry, whether to be a vegetarian or non-vegetarian. But whether to attend today's class or not, that is a choice. Whether to wear a blue shirt or a green shirt today, that is a choice. What to eat today, that is a choice. So at every point of time, we are confronted with this choice. This choice is not, as I said, available for animals. So their life is computerized and programmed and they have no problem. So a corollary that we understand here is where there is no choice, there is no problem. Unfortunately, dilemma of choice comes for a human being only. And particularly the human being who wants to make the right choice. Okay. So therefore, intellect is the faculty to make the choice, and the choice is based on what is good for you in the long term. That which will not give immediate pleasure only to you, but that will be good for you in the long term, which will be pleasurable also. And that is where clarity comes. So therefore, the first aspect of intellect is to make the right choices. So first C stands for choice. Then what we were talking about is the control. Emotions is a virtue, but becoming emotional at every point of time is not a virtue. If we don't have emotions, we are like plants or stones. But if we have emotions and we act on emotions, then there's a problem. We become emotional at every point of time, that is the problem. So we need to have emotions, but we also need to control and guide the emotions. So the key aspect here is actions that you do should not be guided by the emotions. However good it could be also, let the actions always emanate from intellect, because emotions tend to work on the basis of pleasure and pain only. Intellect tends to work on the basis of right and wrong. That is the basic difference. I repeat, mind chooses or works on the basis of what gives its immediate pain or immediate pleasure. It will go for it. The intellect, irrespective of immediate joy or pain, it tells you what is the right choice based on what is right and what is wrong. And that requires clarity. So, if you give a candy to the child, it will go for the candy. It may not choose the currency note which is in the other hand, simply because it doesn't know the value of it. But you will go for it because you know the relative value of the candy and the currency note, and you know what to choose. Yes, the currency note is not going to immediately satisfy you, but you can buy many candies and enjoy for a longer time also. But you need to have that clarity. The child doesn't have that clarity. So we have this, both the knowledges are there, based on which the intellect is able to choose, and based on which choice you will be able to exercise control over the mind. So the second C of 3C intellect stands for control. And the third is very interesting. Creativity. Not only within the given ambit that you are able to perform well, only a human being can do various things which are innovative in nature. A blue whale which was swimming from, let's say, North Pole to equator every winter, and then it will go back there every summer. Suppose if it is going on this migration process, whatever the blue whale was doing thousands of years ago, the subsequent blue whales will be doing the same thing till today. That is the thing set for them. So they are able to somehow adapt, but this is well set for them in motion. There is no extra innovation. The blue whale cannot suddenly make a motorboat and go fast or something like that. It's not possible. But for a human being, at various points of time, we have seen that he is able to exercise his creativity, and he is able to conquer time. He is able to conquer space. This is, what is this a product of? This is a product of his intellect. See, various people go through their medical colleges, they gain the knowledge of medicine, and they become doctors and they earn a living out of it. They can have their own clinic or they work in a hospital. That is what they do. But only one person thought, can I transplant the heart from one person to the other person and give life to the other person. And he succeeded. After his success story, that can become part of the future medical lessons in the medical colleges, and the other people will also get used to it. But the point we need to ask here is, how did it occur to that person? How was he able to think about it, innovate about it? Various people go through engineering colleges and they may put up buildings, they may put up some structures according to what they have learned, and they will earn a living out of it. But somebody thought about building a great Eiffel Tower or a Panama Canal. The Panama Canal, Swamiji says he has seen. We are not saying, but obviously we know that it is a wonderful piece of marvelous engineering construction, that it connects the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean where ships can sail through, which otherwise heavy ships cannot go through. But they have made it in such a way it is possible. Otherwise the ships have to go around the entire South American continent. How much of fuel and everything is wasted. But how was that person able to think about it and execute this? Was it luck for him? Was it God's grace? Or was it something that suddenly splashed in him? How was it possible? Somebody thought about a tunnel under the ocean which connects the main land of Europe to, let's say, British Isles. How is it possible? Like this, we see certain brilliant ideas in every field that it comes. How is this possible? Swamiji always gives this example, and it is there in the book Fall of the Human Intellect also, that there was a court case in Chennai where there was a case of forgery going on. The accused person was accused of forging a document, and he had a lawyer who was an intelligent lawyer, and that lawyer was defending him. So the defending lawyer was arguing from morning till evening, citing various court cases, Allahabad court and Calcutta court and Bombay court, like that he was arguing from morning till evening. And the prosecution lawyer would not open his mouth at all. But the prosecution lawyer was very famous for his thinking only. So before the judgment was to be pronounced, the judge asked, "Sir, do you have anything to say?" So the prosecution lawyer said only one thing. "My lord, you can hold that paper like this, that document, against light." And the judge also held it against light. He asked, "Sir, do you see a watermark there?" "Yes, there's a watermark." Watermark is that mark that you see in the prayer, in the paper which is embedded in it, which is already printed in it. Like you see executive bond, something like that. So this particular paper had an elephant watermark. So the lawyer said only one thing, that the elephant watermark paper was manufactured in the year 1932. And the document was dated 1930. That's all. Of course, he had the evidences, but that's all. The case is closed. I repeat, the paper was manufactured in the year 1932, but the document was dated 1930. So it was a clear case of forgery, and the case was over. What Swamiji says is interesting. He said, "I have studied law in India and in England. Nowhere do they teach this, because nowhere can they teach this. It cannot be taught. This has to come from within that person." So how did it come for this lawyer? Was it a flash? How did it come? So this is where we need to understand that this capacity for you to splash from within in any field of knowledge which is your expertise is available for all. Go back to the story that we started with. The story was not about the two painters. What does it mean? There are two ways of expressing the paint as far as this story is concerned. One way of expressing is to draw the pictures that you want in the wall, which is what the first painter did. The other way is to make the pictures reflect on the wall. This is the essence of the story. Again, I am not saying that when somebody asks you to paint, you make a mirror or something. If some ugly person is standing in front of it, that will get reflected. That's not the point of the story. The point of the story is you can make the painting appear in two ways. One is that you impose yourself on the wall and draw the pictures. Otherwise, you make the wall shine and let the picture get reflected there. It is exactly like that. Are you going to paint the pictures of the world which is in the form of information in your brain? That is one way, which is gaining external knowledge more and more and more. Or is there a way by which you are able to polish your brains and what is inside is going to flash through that in a transparent thoughts when it will come out? We do not know if Shakespeare was a graduate, but without studying Shakespeare, you cannot become a graduate. When you see certain plays, when the king is speaking, Shakespeare writes as in a royal language. When a common man is speaking, he is using that language. And various other thoughts and philosophies come in between. Where did it come for Shakespeare from? The contribution of Newton to mathematics is probably much more than what he had taken from mathematics earlier. How is it possible? It could be in any field, any mathematics or science or literature or where did all the thoughts of Rabindranath Tagore and other great poets come from? Such brilliant thoughts. So what Vedanta says is, the source of all wisdom is there within you in the form of Atma. The self is the source of all wisdom. If only you allow it to blossom, if only you polish your thoughts, which we technically call as development of intellect, it will automatically come up. So, with reference to creativity also, because once you have this capacity of the intellect to be creative, to be innovative, you need not worry about living for meeting your making your ends meet. In the sense, all the brilliance that you gain in the school, and then you sell your time from 9 to 5 to a person, and then you gain money out of it, and then what do? You say, I just run a family. That is not what you are meant to be. This the animal also does. Without a formal education in a school or college and introduction of money into their lives, animal is able to do it. So you say that all the education that you gain in school and colleges will only make you reach to the level of an animal where you can just take care of your family. That is ridiculous. That is not what a human being is supposed to be. So he is supposed to do various other brilliant things. You can be a freelancer. With one idea you can just you can be secured for 1 year also. Like that it is. Then you have all the time for yourself. It may not be a very good example, but I will give it for the sake of only intellect. A person met a chairman of a toothpaste company and he said, sir, I have an idea. If you implement that idea, overnight your sale will double. Guaranteed. You have to give me some money. He said, ₹1,000,000 or lakh of rupees, whatever be it. The chairman said, I will give you definitely the money. You tell the idea. If it works, I will give you even more. He said, nothing doing. I am sure 100% it will work. If you are not giving, I am going to your competitor. That's all. And he was so confident of it. Chairman was also smart. He took that risk and he paid him the money. And this person gave the idea. What is that idea? Of course, we don't have time to interact now, but I'll just say, the idea was simple. That the toothpaste mouth is there like this. Is not toothpaste, just imagine. It comes with a small hole like this, right? He said you have to cut the hole vertically and make it bigger hole. That's all. That's a small idea. That means what will happen? When you press the paste, more paste will come out. And we don't bother when you put it in the brush like this, whether the paste will, instead of getting over in 20 days, it will get over in 10 days only. And this example should not be taken from any ethical or moral point of view. This is not what real intellect is all about. This example is about thinking in a way which is brilliant enough, which is good enough, and he has, let us say, earned whatever money has to be earned for the year by the single idea. Suppose, imagine if you are of that capacity where you can have this idea from within you. Why would you want to work like a hard laborer just to make a living? So you are meant to do higher things in life. You are meant to do greater things in life, for which you have to develop the intellect. We will quickly go through how intellect and intelligence applies at various levels of our personality. This is just a broad idea to map intellect and intelligence here with reference to material wealth, money. With intelligence, you can acquire money. As I said, with more intelligence, you can go to positions and you will earn more money. But handling of wealth is something different. We have covered it when we had the session on how to deal with money, rich man, poor man, we said this. Money, if you are not able to handle properly, that kills a relationship, that makes you completely a sort of a deranged person. I mean, it can cause accidents in your life. Acquiring money, preserving money, parting money, everything requires a control over the money. Otherwise, money will dictate terms to you. So handling money, very, very few people can do. That requires intellect. At the body level, if you want to improve your strength and other things, okay, you can join a gym, you can have a treadmill, or you can buy good food and eat, various things that you can do. All this involves your intelligence and acquiring information here, dieting plan here, this and that you can do. And it will work also. But it requires a sustained intellect to maintain the body in the healthy condition over a long period of time. Otherwise, it is all in short periods according to certain inspiration and certain doctor's advice we do. It requires an intellect to maintain the body in the same condition, because only then you understand what is the purpose of the body, and to that extent you maintain the body. And that body is available to do service for you till the very end of your life. But that requires intellect at the level of the body. When it comes to senses, left to itself, we know how to indulge in senses. Not only that, we have intelligence to do new things to, apply our sensual enjoyment. See, in Bengal, they do different ways of sweets actually. Such beautiful creativity they have in that. Similarly, if you have idea, you can do different types of various levels at which you can indulge in the sensual pleasures, find out new places to go, various other things, or create new games and enjoy in computer, whatever it is. That is a product of your intelligence. But to maintain self-control and keep that enjoyment going till the very end of your life requires discipline. When we talked in the subject about self-control and neutralization, this is what we said. Enjoyments are meant for human being. A cow that gives milk cannot enjoy sweets, but we can make sweets out of it and enjoy. But if you want to continue that enjoying sweet, you need to maintain a disciplined contact there also. Whether it is any sensual enjoyment, it requires that aspect of self-control, and that is a direct product of intellect. When it comes to mind, definitely we need not say at all. Emotions and becoming emotional is quite natural for everybody. But to have a control and guide the emotions properly requires an intellect. Because once you have a passion in that area, if you are able to direct it properly, that can turn out into a great ideal also. But that requires strength of intellect. Otherwise, the emotions can topple you. That's what we saw in the case of Arjuna and others. And in the faculty of intellect itself, in the area of intellect itself, as a faculty in us we have intellect. Mere intelligence will give you lot of information and knowledge. Like a computer you will become. A lot of storage capacity you have, you can gain more and more knowledge. What will that result in? Because hardly people study, they have intelligence. But if people get into intelligence, they keep on studying and acquiring this knowledge from various books and other sources. That what happens is that their head becomes very heavy. It will result mostly in two things. It will result in a confusion, or it will definitely result in arrogance, ego, that I know this and I know that. It is not going to help you anyway go into the depth of knowledge, which is what wisdom is all about. The external knowledge gets itself transformed into internal wisdom once you are able to go into the depth of knowledge. So it is not so many books that you need to study. You need to take up something and go into the depth of it. Like you stop the ship somewhere and go into the depth of the ocean, then only you will get pearls. So that is an aspect of intellect even at this level. As far as spiritual level is concerned, you can, and it is important also that you do various religious practices, various things that you can do. You can acquire knowledge and add to your bhajans, kirtans, various forms of worships. All that is fine, and we are not against all those things also. But with intellect, you will also understand as to why these things are performed, and then what happens is your relationship with those practices, be it karma, bhakti, jnana, anything, it will gain more meaning. It will add more value to your life because you will be now directing that to a purpose. So therefore, intellect is required at the level of spiritual practices also. So in conclusion, we can say at all levels of your personality, it is the intellect that is going to help you. Now what is the conclusion here? The conclusion is not to say anything against intelligence. You have to develop intellect alongside intelligence. Intelligence helps you to improve the standard of living, but it is the intellect which helps you to improve the standard of your life. Standard of living versus standard of life. So the last question that anybody will ask is how to develop this intellect, which I think we have dealt before. There is no other way except to study the basic principles of Vedanta. Start with Vedanta treatise or Fall of Human Intellect, the book. The courses like e-learning and other things is very ingeniously inbuilt program to develop our intellect. Through the study process and reflection, through the process of thinking, through the process of group discussion, it is a long-term process, no doubt, but it is a sure short process. At every step, every step that you take is a solid step. So it is through, we have done this before, that's why I am not going into detail. Thinking, group discussion, taking class, writing, all these are practices by which you can reflect. So never ever take anything for granted. Question everything. This is what Swamiji always says in every lecture. So original thinking alone develops intellect. Original thinking does not mean that you go and sit in Himalayas or Ganga river and think something original that nobody has thought of. It is taking the knowledge of Vedanta and applying your thought originally on it. And when you do this original thinking, you are able to invoke that sort of, within quote, intellect muscles within you. That is what is going to develop the intellect. How do we develop physical muscles, body? By exercising the existing muscles. Exactly like that, at every stage, you exercise the intellect that you have, that is going to give you further and further strength. A car that has to go hundreds of miles begins the journey in the night with a headlight which can light up to only 50 meters. But don't bother, start moving. As you start moving, the headlights of the car is going to give you more and more light. As you travel more and more areas are going to open up, and then your whole journey will be lit like that. So with the existing intellect, you have to apply, you have to not take things for granted, you have to question and move along, and then you will find that more and more areas will open up and your intellect will develop. As far as children is concerned, obviously that is not the subject here, but encourage their questioning also. Let them be very keen in their observation. It applies to you also, in anything for that matter also. Why certain things are happening there, when your perception becomes clearer and you are able to think about it, that is going to trigger your thinking from inside. So therefore, intellect is directly a product of original thinking. Thank you very much. No more sugar.
Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.